Yeah. Man, forget this job, dog. Yeah. Working this graveyard shift, I hate it. 6 in the morning, I'm off, I made it. When I get home, I'ma make this clear. First thing I'ma drink is a Rainier beer. I ain't no lush, shut up.
Hello, it's Adam Morrison. When it comes to top-tier contracting, my go-to choice is McGillivray Environmental. I know a thing or two about excellence, and that's exactly what you'll find with Kip McGillivray and his team. They're not just any contractor, they're the best in Spokane and North Idaho. From start to finish, they ensure your project is completed with the highest quality results. With years of experience and expertise, they handle it all. New construction, meticulous repairs, asphalt paving for residential and commercial properties, excavation, and even environmental remediation. So why wait? Reach out to Kip McGillivray Environmental today by calling 208-556-6384 for your free estimate. Don't forget to mention my name, Adam Morrison, and experience the difference McGillivray Environmental brings to the table. Again, that's 208-556-6384, McGillivray Environmental. My number one choice for all my contracting needs. The Perimeter with Adam Morrison is proudly sponsored by New Love Coffee, serving exceptional coffee while supporting Gonzaga athletics through their partnership with the Zags Collective. New Love Coffee is a specialty coffee company with 3 locations in Kennedy Yards, North Spokane, and Liberty Lake, Washington, offering crafted coffee beverages, tea, and delicious hand pies from Bean and Pie. Committed to quality, all their coffee is single origin and freshly roasted at the original Liberty Lake location. Here's the exciting part. You can now order their freshly roasted coffee online, with every purchase supporting the Zags Collective's mission to uplift Gonzaga student athletes. Try their half decaf blend, a perfect combination of medium roasted decaf and light roasted African coffee. Ideal for espresso, pour over, or cold brew at home. Coffee ships fresh every Thursday, so place your order today at newlovecoffee and zagscollective.com. And feel your mornings while making a difference for the Zags.
The podcast intro song is Get Up by Jinx Universe. Listen to his music on Spotify and follow him on social media at I am Jinx Universe.
Yeah. Man, forget this job, dog. Yeah. Working this graveyard shift, I hate it. 6 in the morning, I'm off, I made it. When I get home, I'ma make this clear first thing.
Welcome to The Perimeter, Season 4, Episode 7, presented by McGillivray Environmental, Idaho Central Credit Union, and New Love Coffee. Battle for Atlantis episode. We're going to cover matchups, what we think is going to happen, who we play. Exciting tournament coming up for the fellas. It should be, one that provides, tournament-like atmosphere. We're playing back-to-back games and then one day off. I know you don't do that in an NCAA tournament, but short turnaround is what I'm trying to get at. Mm-hmm. Quick scouts. And then just being out in the sun and having a good time and things like that. It's always a kind of a treat for this program that gets invited to Maui, gets invited to Atlantis. We got invited to the Disney one. You know what I mean? Like kind of every 4 years. Obviously, they're stacked, but you can go to one of those every 4 years. It's a nice recruiting tool to say, hey, do you want to come hang out and play good hoops and bring your folks and girlfriends or whatever? You know what I mean? I remember going to Maui the first time. I know it's not Atlantis, but it was similar in the mindset of, getting to play in a high-level tournament and then going to the beach and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
For the guys. First matchup, West Virginia. Historically good program. Huggins had that program going for a while. Not so good last year. But it and I've said it a million times, and anybody that listens to the broadcast for Learfield that I do for Gonzaga on the radio, you can turn programs around, especially historical ones, with NIL money, the right coaching staff, and just obviously the transfer portal. So this team is a lot better than they were last year. They were 9-23, but they're in the Ken Palm. They're this year 70, and if you're new to the show or don't understand college basketball, Ken Palm is kind of like the go-to. It used to be what the RPI was kind of considered. It takes strength of schedule, quality opponents, all the analytic stuff that you would kind of look for and ranks them. So if you're in the top 100, you're a solid basketball team, and that's legit.
Right.
Like we played UMass Lowell, and I think they were in the 120s. I know we blew them out, but you're like, oh, that team has a chance to make the NCAA tournament. That's how you kind of view it. Like now, for example, usually, and this is not a knock, but like Pacific in our league is usually in the 300s. They're usually pretty shitty.
Yeah.
But the Ken Palm tells you, and when you show up and play, you're like, yeah, they're pretty bad. You know what I mean? And so like usually the Ken Palm gives you an idea. So my point is, this year, or this game should be better than expected. Also, obviously being on a neutral, you play that game in a ballroom, which is funny when people don't realize like it's a legit ballroom.
About how many people are there?
I'd like to say 1,000 to 1,500.
Okay.
And I don't think there's that many there, but that's what it seats.
Yeah.
But at least probably 5 to 1,000 at least.
Okay.
But it's fine. The atmosphere, it's not as good as Maui's.
Yeah.
That one's like all timer, not just, it just is like the Lahaina Center or whatever. Hopefully they get that back. I don't know if it.
I think it's back this year.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because it's like classic and it's a high school gym, whatever. But it's good enough, and they they do it kind of cool. They light it where it's all dark, everything else. So, but it literally is like going to an AU game, like the bleachers, those type of bleachers. Yeah, like it's just, it's awesome. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
But it is literally in a ballroom. So when you get on those type of courts, shooting could be a factor. No chance of having a home court advantage, all that stuff is kind of thrown out the window. So like playing a West Virginia team who's, historically been good, is a scary game. I know the line's going to be whatever it's going to be, probably 10 plus since we're number 2 in the country or whatever. But these are the type of games that can be scary, especially if you're, not focused. The travel part does make a little bit of difference. I think it was, last time I went, it was a 5-6 hour trip or whatever. That stuff can matter. This team is a very good defensive team historically, and this year holding teams to 36%.
Wow.
And 29 from 3, which is absolutely tremendous. They're actually -3 in the glass, so that's going to be a curious one for them with Gonzaga, 3-1 overall. Only lost to Pittsburgh, who's a good team, but they beat Robert Morris, who's solid, Massachusetts, who's better in the last couple years, who's got in the program, and then Iona, who's been better in the last few years. With Patino, I know he left, but a program that was on the rise. Best players, Javon Smalls averaging 15.5, and then they got Tucker DeVries averaging 13.5. So the 3 guys averaging over 12.5 or 12. Good basketball team. With them, I'll be curious to see how they guard our inside presence. That's always the first thing I talk about on our broadcast. Like, how are you going to guard Graham EK, Braden Huff? Are you going to double team? If so, can we make shots from the perimeter? If we do that, we're going to probably blow you out. I mean that in a good way. If not, you play one-on-one. If our guys don't score, then you have a better chance to win. But then that makes it a really tough matchup. What's your depth like inside? And then pace of play has to be paramount for us. If Ryan Nemhard, who's had probably one of the best starts to any guard that we've had in forever, to a season, if he can get going and running and doing the right things. I mean, he has 47 assists, only 6 turnovers, and averaging 12 points a game. If he can get going pace-wise, then we're really hard to beat, obviously. So looking forward to the matchup. Obviously, we're going to be favored, but it's not a walkover, and these tournaments usually aren't. But sometimes you play Chaminade, or you play, you know what I mean? Yeah. And you get some that are like, oh, this team probably doesn't belong here, but they got invited, and you got to take it. It's a good program booster. But we actually lost in it last time we were there. We lost to Michigan. Yeah. That was the first, I think it was Juwan Howard's first year. And what's crazy is that Hunter Dickinson kid is still playing. The big,
That's right. Yeah,
the big, and he killed us. He was like, man, this kid's really good. He still is.
Yeah,
but now he's still playing he's still at Kansas. He's at Kansas now. Yeah, but it's like, man, I thought that, anyway, that's just college basketball now. But good player. He killed us. But I remember that team's like, man, this team has a Final Four chance, which they did. Yeah, I think that year they went to, I think the Elite Eight or Sweet 16 or one of those. Or I can't remember. Close to. Anyway. So yeah, it should be a fun game. Obviously, we're going to be favored, like I said. But if we can play our game, should win. But you never know. Again, you play in these weird deals that you can't really prepare for. Our guys are good on the road, but you just never know. I mean, you're shooting in a ballroom. You just got to the beach. Time change. I mean, those things are factors, and you can't really look ahead. So let's assume that we win. Yeah. And let's talk about our next matchup between either Louisville or Indiana. I'll give Louisville's kind of rundown first. Indiana's a better basketball team. I think they're ranked 18th or 17th right now. 35 in the KenPom, but like 18 in the AP. Louisville, much better. Similar to West Virginia last year, 8-24, but 58 in the KenPom. Historical program as well. Yeah. National championship winning program, in the 2000s. Kind of fell off a cliff in the last 2-3 years. They think they got it turned around this year, playing much better than obviously last year. I mean, they were like historically bad last year. Yeah, they were like comical bad. And that's just the reality. There's no other way to put it. But I think that similar to West Virginia, if they have the right staff and the right personnel, and NIL plays a factor, you can turn these programs around. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you could say to a kid like, hey, there's a lot of great players that play here. We play in a big conference. Do you want to be part of a winning culture and turning it around and all that stuff? Their only loss to Tennessee, who's a really good basketball club, top 10 or top 15. Got a win over Morehead State. I have no idea if they're good. Bellarmine has been good in the past. Winthrop has been good in the past, but 3-1 is better than 8-24. Obviously, it's early in the season, but they got. My point is, they're playing better basketball. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys averaging double figures. Again, like West Virginia, play really good defense, holding teams to 38%, under 30 from three. Consequently, they don't shoot it well from three, 29%. Yikes. And 43 overall, +2 on the glass, but a much better start to the season. On the other side, Indiana, who I think will be favored, should win, has got great talent, historical program again. Like I said, what are they in the KenPom? 35, so this is a very good basketball team. They just got Omar Ballo, if people remember. He was at Gonzaga with one of Tommy's last recruits. And then when Tommy Lloyd got the head job at Arizona, he took him with him. Didn't play for us, really. I don't think he was ready. Yeah. He was very raw, like extremely. I think he was 17. It was kind of like a Joel Ayayi thing where like, hey, this kid could be playing at Ferris right now up the hill. You know what I mean? Before we judge, let's understand like he could be playing in a GSL game right now and he's on campus. So let's give him some time. And he's a big that was, kind of like a giraffe, just couldn't. Everything wasn't working at the same time, you know what I mean? So kudos to him, but I must say, if I'm going to be completely honest, I wish he would have stuck it out with Arizona. Yeah. It's an NIL thing, and he took the money, and it's not like he was getting zero at Arizona. Don't know the kid. I'm sure he's nice, but again, just outside looking in, Tommy took you, developed you into what you are now, and then your last year you go, you bounce out, and I'm all about Milton Friedman capitalism. Go get as much as you can. But there's got to be some loyalty a little bit. But having a good season for him, is averaging 12 points a game, shooting 70%, hasn't taken a three, averaging 9.8 rebounds a game. So he's a terrific player. And that's not, but I was kind of disappointed. And this is before we even knew we were going to play him in the deals. It's kind of like, a little more left, Tommy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like developed him, took him along. And then, you take the biggest paycheck or whatever. So I guess that's the deal with sports and college sports now. But they have a great club as well. They have 4 guys averaging double figures. Mackenzie Bachbo, I think I said his name right, is averaging almost 19 points a game. Terrific player, shooting 53 from 3, 59 overall, 6 rebounds as well. Miles Rice is terrific, is averaging 15 a game. I mentioned Omar Ballo, very good club, similar to us, much better offensively, averaging 51 from the field, 36 from 3, so much more efficient.
Yeah.
You could see why they're rated higher, plus 6.5 on the glass. Hasn't played a daunting schedule, but obviously if they're in the 35 in the KenPom, top 20 in the AP in college, they're good. And people recognize that has a nice win against South Carolina. Mike Woodson, who's former NBA coach, has done a good job of kind of getting that program back to respectability. Obviously Bob Knight had that program going, national championships, but it kind of took a dip after who was the other coach right after him who was good? It went to a Final Four right after him. Mike Davis, I think who it was. He was good too. But then after that, it just kind of went down, and Tom Crean took over. And very proud program. Indiana's basketball central, so they want at least to be productive and have a chance, and he's got him going. So I think that's going to be the matchup we face. It'll be interesting to see how we play Ballo, having some familiarity, and how we play their inside presence as well, because both teams are super efficient. We're obviously play a little bit faster clip, but similar actions, get your wings going, but also let's go inside out.
Yeah.
Let's get some duck-ins from the weak side. So I think that's the matchup that's going to happen. Obviously, we'll be favored, but I think that'll be kind of in the 6 to 7 point line or whatever you want to say. Like, we're pretty close. And again, like, you never know. Who knows how our first game goes, and vice versa for them. How much energy you have to put out. All those things matter, and then you turn around and play again. The heat and stuff does matter too. I know it sounds funny, and it's almost December, but you get out there and you're not used to it, and you maybe sweat a little bit more, and you think you should, and then here comes a cramp second game. Like, that's a real thing you have to be cognizant of. And before, I remember when we went to Maui and things of that nature, we'd always get harped on about fluids before, because you have to get prepared for it, but it's a real thing. And sometimes it's hard to get 18, 19, 20-year-olds to really understand that until it happens. Like, I can't move my calf, and oh shit, I got to sit out. And well, did you drink 2 gallons of water before you came here in a week or whatever? Like, no. It's like, well, you're draining more fluids just because of the humidity and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how those first 2 games go. Obviously, we got to talk about the potential championship. It's going to be a big game. I think the executives had.
The Perimeter will be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Sound good? Thank you again.
Obviously, we got to talk about the potential championship. It's going to be a big game. I think the executives at whoever's covering this TV-wise are just praying for this to happen. Gonzaga versus Arizona would be a fantastic storyline, would be a fantastic deal. I think Arizona gets through Oklahoma, right? That's who they play the last one. Or, if they win, they should beat Davidson. But Oklahoma's a good club, so that's a possibility as well. And Oklahoma's 47 in the KenPom right now.
Yeah.
Arizona is 23, so very good clubs. But let's just talk about Arizona. Obviously, the familiarity with Tommy Lloyd, the system. much of their staff was here, like support staff that he has now got their start at Gonzaga.
Yeah.
I think their Dobo is Mickey's his name, I think. I forgot his name. He's a nice guy, bald guy. He's cool. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but he was here, came with Tommy. Ken, who was our video guy, is now an assistant. Things of all, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he has Shimmy over there working with him, Shimmy Karnowski. So like Ricky Foyce, who was on staff when I was a GA, went with Tommy's fantastic, probably his lead assistant now, was with the Suns for a while, like got to start with Tommy. Like he was like just a walk on at Pepperdine. And then he made the right decision being linked in with Tommy, but got to move over, went with the Suns. And when Tommy got that job, linked up with him, obviously knows the game. So yeah, it's a lot of familiarity. Tommy was with us, I think, 20 years. So it'll be interesting if that matchup happens. Two great styles, two programs I would probably consider. Yeah, no, it is the top 4 in the West Coast. I've said it. Us, Arizona, UCLA, and San Diego State would probably, if you go in the last decade, you'd probably put those 4 in the top of the West Coast and then top 20 in the country. Very, very unarguable. So it would be a terrific matchup. I've said it a million times on this podcast, and I just firmly believe it. Nobody wants to play their buddies. So it'll be interesting if it happens, just because we run some familiar stuff. Tommy was part of the revamp of Gonzaga basketball, if that makes sense what I mean by that. He was there for right when after the Elite Eight and all that stuff. But the revamp as far as style of play, he probably was one of the ones that kind of helped implement, hey, we need to get away from running flex. And, you know what I mean? Like in the mid 2010, 11, 12, 13, in those kind of mid years, like we need to start playing a little bit different. Let's use bigs. Let's use 3 bigs. But let's play faster. Let's play, DHO zoom action. Let's not just run, hey, we throw it to Dan or throw it to Mo and see if he can score 30. I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
Let's play more of a European style where if our main guy is not cooking, we still can be efficient and win a basketball game. He was part of that process. Obviously, Fewy understood that. They made a pivot. But Tommy really understood European basketball. He understood how the NBA worked. He spent a lot of time like studying the NBA. I know for a fact that at one point he was considered to be on staff of some part of the staff for the Spurs. I don't know if that was like on staff, but like work on their scouting department or whatever. But because he studied, he understood the game, and they recognized how smart he was. But he decided to stay at Gonzaga because he liked the coaching side. So I think it'll be a cool matchup, but it'll be a little bit of bittersweet, win or lose, just because they're 2 great programs and friends. And it's not like the end of the world if either team wins or loses, but it's just not fun playing your friends. I don't know, man. I think it's weird. I'm not a fan of it. They're a good basketball team, but they've kind of struggled a little bit this season.
2 tough games in a row. Yeah.
Yeah. They lost to Wisconsin, which I heard was like a bloodbath. There was some like 50-some fouls called or something crazy.
Whoa.
At Wisconsin, which is always tough to play. And that's very contrasting styles. Returned most of their guys from last year. They made it to what was it, the Elite 8 or Sweet 16? I think it was Sweet 16 last year. Ran into a buzzsaw and just couldn't quite get over the hump. Let's look at their stats right here. Yeah, they got Jaden Bradley, who's fantastic, shooting 50%, 36 from 3. Caleb Love, who's a fantastic guard. Really struggling this year, though. Hold on, let me look at these numbers. Shooting 32% from the field, 21 from 3. Only 13 assists. They're 2-2. They lost to Wisconsin, and then they lost to Duke. So this is not a bad basketball team, but a reeling basketball team is what I'm trying to say. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get over the hump against Oklahoma. But I guarantee that's the matchup, all the executives and radio, TV, fans want to see. And that's what I'm semi-predicting, but if we play an Oklahoma team, that's going to be a tough basketball team as well. So fun tournament. Should be a good time for the fellas. It's definitely a resume building opportunity for every team. You know what I'm saying? It's because you get a chance to, hopefully stack wins that work out better for you later on. Sometimes it can go the other way though. Like you get a win and you bank on a team to be good, and then they turn out to be really shitty. And come on,
Yeah.
Like a West Virginia, you're like historically good. If you beat them, you're like, come on, and then you like they're 16-16 this year. What the heck? You know what I mean?
Doing the research for it a little bit. Like when you look at when this was announced last year, everyone was like, you have a lot of blue bloods, and all the teams are performing well. I don't see a team in here that's a world beater other than Gonzaga.
Yeah, I think it. Not just being super obvious, but we should win this tournament, right? If you're looking at the numbers, obviously Arizona and Oklahoma on the other side will be tough.
Yeah.
But, matchup wise, talent wise, if you're just being objective, it favors us.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. Again, like I said, there's a lot of factors that go into these deals. We are always, we always have a mature group, but you always got to account for weather change. I mean, that stuff's real. I know people may, really? It's like, yeah, man. I mean, it happens. And you see other talented teams in these tournaments that like kind of crap out if they lose their first game, then they lose their set, and then it kind of sends them reeling because they, they probably have guys like, just go to the pool, man. And then the next day they're like gassed. It's like, actually, no, you can't go to the pool. Sounds funny, or you can be out there for an hour and don't get in the pool. You can sit there and then you got to get back to your room and like get out of the sun. Like that's a real thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, it'd be an interesting time, interesting tournament. Looking forward to watching it. Should be fun.
What do you think about the long delay? Like we haven't played a game since Wednesday.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The last game we played was against forget who it was against, but there's obviously they're practicing during this time, but I think they left on Sunday,
yeah,
to get there. And is there did they just get there and practice immediately? Like what is?
Yeah, I think you practice, you take a day off after. Yeah, who did we just beat? Who did we play? It was Arizona State, UMass Lowell,
Long Beach State.
There we go. That's bad. Not really. I mean, they all kind of mesh together, even though it's early. But some of those not so great games, you're like, I'm already like when the tip off starts, I'm like, man, this is gonna be boring. I gotta act like I'm not bored for at least the first half. Then I can act like I'm bored in the second half. I think you play that game. You take maybe a day off, maybe two. It depends on your group, and this group would be like veterans can stay or come in and get your work in, but we're not going to go live. Come shoot, lift, stretch, or whatever. You know what I mean? Get on the training table. So it can be a factor, but I think with our personnel, no. But that's a very good question. It's a very good point, because if you have a younger crew, you might want to practice more. Obviously, there's things you still got to iron out. We've had a great start to the season, but we're not perfect by any means. And if you're smart, which our staff is, you self-scout. Okay, what do you think Indiana's going to do against us? What do you think Arizona? What do you think Tommy knows that we're not very good at? And you watch film on yourself, and so you maybe work on that, but you make sure you get yourself healthy and right. So yeah, a long break is a legit concern, not a concern, but a factor. So yeah, very good question, because it does make sense. You don't want to go too hard. It's a fine balance with veterans like we do, like 4 seniors, like they can come in and shoot. Even our juniors, you know what I mean? Like come and shoot. Get your body moving, but like we're not going to go live or beat you up. Yeah, type of deal.
When you were there last time, like what was the atmosphere of? Like, I mean, I know that we kind of talked about the atmosphere of the games, but like, is it just a bunch of people there for? Everyone's there for basketball, right?
Yeah, it's a cool. So Atlantis is different. I don't know if anybody's ever been there. It's a massive resort. It's like, I mean, massive resort, like space-wise too. Like to get to the ballroom, and this is not even like an exaggeration. It's like a 20-minute walk inside.
Oh, wow.
It's that like the property's that big, and you're like, oh my god, this thing keeps going forever. And they tell you like, no, you got to start walking and you're like, it's inside. Like, what do you mean? And you're like, no, and it's this convention center hallway forever. You know what I'm saying? So that part's a little bit different. It's an older property, so like not that it's not nice, but like some of it you kind of chuckle, like it's from the night, like late '90s, like decor and stuff.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like this is what it looked like when I was a kid. So that part's kind of funny. Anybody that's been to the Bahamas, the beaches are like unbelievable. I'm not a pool guy. I'd rather go to the beach.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I can go to pool anywhere. The water park is fun for me. We did one day, and I called it good. And the kids are like, "Yeah, let's just go to the beach. It's kind of stupid waiting in line." You know what I mean? You do that. What sucks about the Bahamas, and I don't want to say this the wrong way, but like it's really fucking expensive.
Yeah.
Like literally everything. They have a VAT tax, and I get it. It's tourism's. They're probably their only import or whatever. It's not a knock, but it's just like you go get like a Coke in the morning. And it's like $6.99, and then it's 20%, and then they want you to tip, and then this one is like $10, and you're just like, after a while, you're like, Jesus, man, like it gets old. That part really gets old. But other than that, it's a cool atmosphere because most people are there for hoops, and then you see other fans, and it's kind of like people are excited, but it's not like, hey, we kicked your ass. Like, hey man, what's up? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And let's go have a Mai Tai together or whatever. And so it is a cool atmosphere. I must say, I think Maui's a little bit better as far as atmosphere, just because Lahaina is a smaller venue, and I think it's easier to get there. You don't need a passport. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think that does play factors into atmosphere of the tournament. But it's cool that we get to go to these deals every 4 years. They don't just ask any programs.
Yeah.
And so I think people need to understand, like, Gonzaga's been in these type of tournaments for the last 15 years consistently. It's because we've been successful and we are a draw on TV, and it's a legit recruiting tool. I mean, it really is. If you can say, hey, at least once or twice in your tenure here, if you play 4 years, obviously you're going to get to go to a really cool tournament. Yeah. And if you're smart, you can bring in family members or whatever, and they save up, you know what I mean, or whatever. And, you can get there. You're going to have tickets, like just get here. And we can figure it out. So I think it's really special. I think it's cool that they do have Arizona on the backside, but I think it's going to be interesting as well if that comes to fruition. But I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma gets that game as well. 47th in the Ken Palm. Arizona's lost their last two, got beat by Duke. Wisconsin, not that those are pushovers, but they need to play well. Like I mentioned, their guard play hasn't been great. Caleb Love not having a great senior season campaign, shooting, like I said, 32%, 21 from three. That's a big factor if you're going to be playing well anywhere, especially in tournaments like this. Your guards got to play well. So you got any listener questions?
I got a listener question from
The Perimeter. Will be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Play well. So you got any listener questions?
I got a listener question from Austin Simpson. He said, Battle's a great add to this team. Not to knock Battle. Sometimes he can get downhill and it looks like he's out of control from a fan's perspective. What do you think the coaching staff is thinking? Do you just accept that this is the type of game and there's a good chance he will get fouled and get to the line? Or is that something you may want Battle to dial down?
It's a very good point. He came in shooting a high number of volume of free throws, which is an asset. He makes them. I don't even know what's the splits. Let me look real quick. Shooting from three. So he's shooting. Here, I got it right here. Battle. He's shooting 18 for 18 on the season.
Yeah.
Obviously 100%. So you want a guy to try to create fouls. Now, do you have to live with some of the where he dives into people and they scout and they jump backwards with their hands up? Yeah. Does it always look good? No. But as a staff, he's a senior. He's scored 1,300 points before he got here. He's played at high-level programs. You know what you got. He's been terrific for us. He's leading us in scoring, leading us in scoring 14 and a half a game, shoot 45, 46 from three. Yeah, you just live with it.
Yeah.
Now, from a pure basketball perspective, sometimes does it look like a force a little bit, but not everybody's perfect.
Yeah.
And also, like, I think sometimes there's a couple is like, yeah, he has a legitimate argument that he got fouled.
Yeah.
It's not always, why did you do that? So that's a great question because I try to talk about it on our broadcast as well. I'm like, was that the right play? Probably not. But I'm also like, well, he's got 16 and he's putting foul pressure and, you just kind of have to live. It's like, maybe it's a bad example or it's only one thing about like when you had like Brett Favre and he threw like a pick, like, well, the other three that he snuck in there for a touchdown, every once in a while he's going to throw a pick, you know what I mean? Or whatever. So like sometimes you have to like gamble a little bit or play not by the book to get those foul situations. And he's shooting obviously 100% like I mentioned. So if he does get fouled, one, it gets you foul pressure obviously gets you to the bonus. And then if he's getting fouled, he's going to make them. Yeah. Down the stretch, it really helps you too in close basketball games. And he's had to make some. Arizona State, he made some, you know what I mean, down the stretch where they actually mattered, free throws that mattered. So that I think that's a terrific question because it's a fair point, and anybody that's watching that's a basketball person sometimes is like, well, that's a force, you know what I mean? But also it's like, well, he had some terrific dunks and string together threes. That's just how he plays. He plays downhill, maybe to a fault. Yeah, but not in a. It's more good than bad is the point I'm trying to get to. But I think terrific question is terrific thought and terrific notice of how that could affect or coaching staff wise. But also now if he was a freshman or sophomore, you could probably okay, let's try to clean this up. But he's a senior, like, what do you do? He's a transfer. Don't do it again. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Okay.
I mean, I think we pointed out a stat earlier this year that he made more free throws last year than we attempted, I think.
100%.
And that's why we probably wanted him on the team. I mean, one of the reasons. Yeah. So, like, you want him to the line, obviously. So, yeah. I think it's fun to watch. Like, it's to have him just do a spot up three where he's like 5 feet behind the 3-point line and makes it. Like, it's fun to watch. I mean, like, but he doesn't take them. He doesn't take 5 of those a game.
No,
though.
He doesn't. He takes a couple that are usually in rhythm, and he's shooting 46%, so he's allowed to take those. Yeah. But also, he's good against the closeout. He had some great finishes, overall. But there's some times where, he's ripping against the closeout, and there's, a guy on the split line and guy on the block, and there's 2 sets of hands, 4 hands, and it's like, that's probably a kick out. Yeah. But he tries to draw the foul and doesn't get it. So it looks worse than it maybe is. And I'm just being honest because I've played with guys like that are play extremely downhill. They're hard to guard and it's annoying. And then sometimes you get into games where the teams are not in position and that is a foul. So I thought San Diego State in that game did a good job of scouting him. Now, would he be better off every once in a while shooting a pull-up jumper? Of course. Yeah. But it's easy to money quarterback, but that's part of what the show is. Yeah. Right? Is doing that. But also, like, thinking back to my playing days, I tried to draw fouls too. And I obviously got a really good whistle my last year, kind of earned that. Yeah. But at the same time, if you're smart enough as a defensive team and you scout, you tell your guys to wall but jump backwards. Yeah. And then he's going to maybe punt a couple at the rim, and we can go, and it kind of turns into a turnover. So I think that's a long-winded answer to a really good question. But I don't think there's really anything you can do. If it happens too much as the season progresses and it causes, like, runs to start happening, then you just take him out and he'll figure it out. Smart enough, he's played enough. Yeah. So I think there is a solve to it, but I don't think it needs to be solved now.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
That makes total sense.
So,
Another question comes about the 40th anniversary of the Maui Invitational. And obviously the highest scoring player ever is you. You've scored 43 points against Michigan State. And I just kind of like wanted to ask, like, what, like, we've talked a lot about Maui Invitational over the years, but like being the highest scoring player ever,
single
like
season, single game, right?
Single game, yeah. Well, I mean, that's something to hang your hat on. Like, what that triple overtime, like, what was it like?
It was definitely a lot of physical exertion. Obviously, I never played a triple overtime game in my life. I don't think I even played a double overtime game. Not even in high school. Maybe. Anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and then talking about, I just mentioned, you know, talking about even in the Bahamas, having, you know, physical output. The first game, we had to beat a Maryland team that was really good. And DJ Strawberry. I think Gary Bennett was still the coach. Like, this when Maryland was good.
Yeah.
Right after, like, Steve Francis, Steve Blake, that crew, you know what I mean? Like, that's that era of, like, no, this team can go to the Final Four and win a championship. Good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, so they had that type of club, and we had those wins, but it wasn't like pencil it now.
Right.
You know, so like we had to win that game. So we win that game. And then Michigan State we were kind of viewed them as a mark of how tough you can be as a program. And I know Fewey and Bill Greer and you know, Leon Rice, Tommy was on that staff. They viewed that as like, can we get over the hump with a Big Ten team? Are we going to get pushed around and punked? Because if people remember, Michigan State, I think, played them 2001 or something like that in the second or third round, in the NCAA tournament. Do you remember that game? And it was Michigan State or Purdue, and anyway. Like, literally kicked the shit out of us on the glass, and it was like a wake up call. Like, how do we get better at rebounding? What's the formula? And that's kind of turned the tide. And so my point is, like, going into that game, our staff was like, okay, this is kind of a measuring stick. Can we take another step forward? Or are we going to just get punked? Not just win, but like, are we going to get punked on the glass? So we were like hypersensitive to that. And it was just an all-out physical battle. And we got going offensively. I got rolling in the second half. Mo Egger for them had a terrific game. Shannon Brown, who I ended up being a teammate with for 2 years in L.A. and Charlotte, had a great game. Derek Ravio had a great game for us.
Yeah.
You know, JP had a great game. Just an all-time class. People always every year still talk about it or mention it to me somehow, either on the road or whatever. I remember watching you in Maui. He's like, yeah, cool, man. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was a fun game. And then what's crazy is we had to play UConn. Like, think of that. Yeah, like that tournament. You know, how many good teams are in that thing? It's like, holy crap. Like, we had to play UConn, and we lost on a buzzer beater. But it was it was a good measuring stick for us too, because we were always viewed as couldn't play any Big Ten team. We would just get taken to the woodshed, pushed around, and so we kind of took that as a personal, thing for us. And I know it was a huge game for our staff, not just to win it, but like I said, not get even if we lost it but didn't get punked, they would have felt better about it.
Yeah,
we were not trying to get punked and pushed around because Izzo was like friends with Fewey. He's helped them out, and starting a coaching friendship. This is how you guys need to. If you guys want to make a step, you better learn how to rebound. And if you're smart, you try to have +9 in your conference rebounding margin, and then non-conference 6.5. You know what I mean? Like, there's a fucking formula to this. And so that game was very good for our staff. Obviously, I played really good. It was a fun atmosphere. That's such a cool gym. It really is, because it's a high school gym, and it's packed, and they chant, and it's just cool, man. It's just like playing, and it's hot, and you have to be ready to go. The officials are usually kind of let you play. Rims are soft. Like it's just a fun atmosphere. I called the game. I mean, you could probably, and I'm being completely honest, like that's one of our best Maui moments, but Gonzaga's best one is when they beat that Duke team with Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like Maui's been a great tournament for us, but like you can't, like those guys on that team that got that win was like that. You can't beat the atmosphere there. It's just, you can't beat it. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
So hopefully, like you said, the Lahaina Center is back and going, because it's just a cool atmosphere for the community, and obviously anybody goes to it, it's just super fun. But yeah, that game was terrific, and it helped elevate the program, help elevate my stock as individually. It helped just, and that was when college basketball is a little bit viewed differently nationally. So there's more eyeballs on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a cool atmosphere, and hopefully, like I know it's a different venue, but tropical tournament, you know what I mean? Hopefully our guys can have that type of moment and
Definitely
in this one and try to win it, because we didn't win the last Bahamas. Like I said, Michigan beat us, and we had that classic the second round game against Oregon.
Yeah.
And I had Peyton Pritchard, who's playing really good for the Celtics now. Duarte, who's last time I checked, he was on the Pacers, or was in the for the Pacers.
Yeah.
And I think I talked about it. It was 3 or 4 years ago. I talked about it like Fewy and what's the coach's name? I forget. It's look up Oregon's head coach name. Anyway, he used to be at Creighton. They don't like each other. Oh. And, Dana Altman. Sorry, Dana Altman. They don't like each other, and that's about the only guy that I've heard Fewy and somebody else don't like each other. There was something that happened at Creighton years ago, scheduling, and then there was something that happened with a couple players. Usually, Fewy doesn't have a problem. You know what I mean? Like it's rare when somebody doesn't like him. He doesn't like. They don't like each other.
Yeah.
And so winning that game in overtime was classic. That was, remember, Joel's like coming out party.
Yeah, that's right.
Because somebody was hurt. I can't remember who was hurt that game. Didn't play, so Joel got a start, and he had played out of his mind, and finally got he earned himself into that rotation that game.
Yeah.
But it was just a cool atmosphere, and it was cool. Knowing the backstory, like these programs hate each other that nobody talks about, but they, as they recruit Oregon, Spokane, like it's not very far. You're recruiting the same kids. You're telling the same. He did this thing, you know what I mean? Like they both probably have something. Well, that kid went there and he didn't turn out for him. You know what I mean? They're both saying the same stuff. So we've had some great moments in these tournaments. Hopefully we can have one in this one coming up, and hopefully, we play Arizona, and it's a fun game. But again,
I mean, it's about. I mean, I think.
I know the fans want it.
The fans want it, but
100%.
and it's going to happen eventually. So
yeah, you're right.
Might as well happen now instead of having it happen in a tournament when it really matters.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I mean, honestly, when I was looking at this lineup, I was like, everyone was circling Arizona, but I mean, this Indiana team could be
100%. Indiana is going to be tough.
Yeah,
they're good. They're playing kind of with a chip on their shoulder. Mike Woodson's got a good program. We talked about Ballo. We talked about their perimeter play. They play efficient like us. It ain't going to be a pushover.
Yeah, and
no question. And that's not even us trying to hype up the show or the games. Like Indiana, if we get Indiana and we somehow don't win the championship game, assuming we beat West Virginia, Indiana's still going to be a good good tournament win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or good resume tournament.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
And I mean, I was when I was getting all these stats together, one thing I noticed is that all the teams in Battle for Atlantis combined for a 35-4 record.
That's crazy.
So all these teams are winning, and even Davidson, I wouldn't expect to play them, but they could surprise someone.
Yeah,
so
they could surprise somebody. Could beat Arizona in the first round.
Yeah. So
it's going to be fun. Obviously, we'll talk about it after the tournament gets over. Hopefully, we're talking about it. 3-0 sweep there, and a championship win, and then moving on to what do we got? Kentucky,
UConn,
and then UConn.
Yeah.
It's kind of a murderer's row of schedule, but that's what we want.
Yeah.
And hopefully it continues that way. I think it's great for the fan base. It's great for our content, right? Instead of when we get into January. So we got San Diego coming up, and we got to pretend that it's going to be a tough game or whatever. But I think it's a terrific opportunity for these guys to play well. I talked about it at length, that just how cool these experiences are for them as just a young man, young athlete, but for the program to be invited to these things consistently makes a big difference. It matters for recruiting, or matters for just overall program, stability and being able to move up. I appreciate everybody listening. Tune in probably Monday or Tuesday next week. We'll recap this, and then we'll look ahead to Kentucky and UConn. Obviously a great 2-game stretch coming up, but hopefully we're talking about a win. And the Bad Boy Mowers battle for Atlantis. You should get a mower if you win.
You should. Everyone should.
Everybody get a mower.
And the first game is at 11:30 local time.
Yeah.
So it's
Everybody
early tip.
Yeah, watching it at work or whatever. But thank you to our sponsors, McGillivray Environmental, as always, Idaho Central Credit Union, New Love Coffee. Make sure you go on New Love Coffee and get some of that coffee that they're selling for the Gonzaga Collective. Yeah. It's a great program. It's a great company, startup, and make sure that you try to help out that brand, but then it helps out the Gonzaga Collective, and it's kind of a win-win for everybody.
100%.
All right.
Working this graveyard shift, I hate it. 6 in the morning, I'm off, I made it. When I get home, I'ma make this clear. First thing I'ma drink is a Rainier beer. I ain't no lush, shut up, hush. This is how I zone out. I'ma take this check, put it on me. I'm a much better boss than an employee. Just cause you got time, don't waste time. It's about time, feel the sunshine. You got time, but don't waste time. It's go time. Employee, I'm an employee cause I go OD on a BEAT. I'm a young OG, been killing these raps since 03, so when a supervisor.
The podcast intro song is Get Up by Jinx Universe. Listen to his music on Spotify and follow him on social media at I am Jinx Universe. Produced locally in Spokane, Washington at Spokecast.